First of all, Jeff, congratulations on 25 years at Point of Rental.
Thank you very much.
Most people at Point of Rental did something before they got here. So can you give me like a 1-minute rundown of what you were doing before you got to Point of Rental?
From the 80s till 1992, worked for an Alpha Micro hardware and software shop. So we installed computer terminals, modified the core accounting package, and created new modules. I created about 23 different modules. So 92, 98, I moved to Texas to program for an in-house accounting and ordering package system. MIS manager responsible for ordering, installing, and maintaining hardware and software. So I work for a company out of Fort Worth called Quorum International.
Okay.
They have the senior, actually, his house lives next door to the Bass family. So they're like the two important families there. And there's actually history with the uncle brother of the guy I work with.
Okay, I don't know if I want to get into that story.
Yeah, well, you can always edit it out. It was Colin Davis.
Okay.
He's the OJ of Texas. Got off twice.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
All right. Hopefully that doesn't play a role in your career development.
No, I worked there from like 92, 98. So.
Okay. So I can see Alpha Micro. I know that early days of Point of Rental, we had Alpha Micro. Is that how you get to Point of Rental, or how did you discover Point of Rental?
Well, I was out of work for 18 months. I decided that the stress of the job there wasn't going the way I wanted it. So I left and was actually on my way to Minnesota, ran into an old girlfriend, and she asked me to stay. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But a previous coworker let me know that they were looking for an Alpha Micro programmer down here. And I had met Wayne before at an Alpha Micro users meeting.
Okay.
Somewhere about the mid, 96, somewhere around there, and the one out in LA. And so got the job here, took over the legacy POR programming from Wayne so he could finish his Windows project for enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
It created updates, support for existing customers on the Alpha Micro hardware, and troubleshooting software issues. So I was doing support in customer calls and all that specifics there. So yeah, I got in trouble because I had a 12-hour call one time for an Alpha Micro person, and I had rebuilt their hard drive over the phone with them, typing in the commands.
Wow. And this isn't back when like calls were free. This is like long distance calls cost money.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a customer call.
I can see why you would get in trouble for
yeah.
Hey, 12 hours, man. That's pretty expensive.
Yeah, and that also ended up being one of the largest call logs because I put all the steps in there. With the old Point of Rental software, enterprise was being used to track our customers until we went to other methods over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you do now at Point of Rental? I'm assuming you're not still programming Alpha Micros?
No, that ended in 2006 with the last release. I went from basically did about 5 or 6 legacy releases. So I shifted from the legacy Point of Rental program updates to creating competitor software conversions from their legacy hardware and software. So we're talking customers that have things that are so old, even when they go to I've seen SQL Server, they still use the old stuff in there and violate pretty much, rules.
Yeah.
I have a couple where if I try to upgrade SQL Server data, some of their modern stuff, it does something to the data and it becomes unreadable. So it's kind of like they have it fixed. This is the version we're using, and you don't get to upgrade. But so I think the first one I started with was Alert, for of all people, Tate's. So I did their conversion. The only reason I ended up with that was I just finished my last release. Wayne came in and says, "Can you figure out this data?" Because Alert uses a proprietary development engine and database system.
Yeah.
That stores everything. It looks like text. That's why Wayne was working on it, but the numbers didn't look right. Couldn't line them up.
Yeah.
Well, I poked around, found a couple really cool Windows 98 XP utilities, and determined that they're running what's called zone numeric, which is punch card data storage. So
Nice.
they use special characters to represent whether this is a zero, like open fancy brace is zero, and one is A, and they put those at the end of the number, and that indicates that's a positive number. Well, they do close fancy brace, and then the next series of letters, I think it's you have to go to 10J, something like that, is a 1 or something like that, and it's a negative. And that's how they did signage, and it's a very odd thing, and we're actually getting a whole lot of alerts now all of a sudden. So
Yeah.
before that it was CounterPro. That was my second one. I actually went to one of our customers in Terrell, sat down with their bookkeeper, and went through like a couple days of trying to learn what they had on the CounterPro, the CPro data. And that one's all stored on SCO Unix, which that hasn't seen the light of day since the 90s. It's still around, obviously, but
Yeah.
I don't know anybody running the new stuff. But this is stuff is so old that it's so proprietary that the operating system, a lot of the steps. But that was the second biggest one. That's the one I did 200 plus conversions over the last years. It's slowed way down. I think I put them out of business. They badmouthed our pointer rental legacy, and I took it personally.
So you're kind of like a technology archaeologist / like, yeah, you're discovering these old languages, you're translating them into.
Well, I probably have worked on all of those old languages. I worked on Paradox, DBase, the Alpha Micros. The structure is all the same. It hasn't changed. I even did work in college on the IBM 360 mainframe computer. And the structure and the lowest levels, it's still the same no matter what they do. Even the modern stuff, when you boil it down and you get down at hard drive level, it's there's your rub. It's still stored. They have not come up with a different way of storages. They've come with more efficient ways of managing it and recovering it. But I mean, when I started, they were called Hawks and Phoenix. One of them was a removable pack drive. It was like 15 megabytes on a removable drive that was over 12, 15 inches wide. The original 5 megabyte hard drive weighed 70 pounds. And they were called Hawks and Phoenix. And I thought we were living when we went to a 10 megabyte, 5.25 inch drive. And then went beyond the moon when we went to a 30 megabyte hard drive. So,
I mean, but back then that was living.
That was living, yes. And the Alpha Micros had a strong sense as a business computer, because the next level up was you're talking mini mainframes. They were an excellent business computer for the amount of money and terminals. Now, Alpha Micro is still out there, owned by one of the people who used to sell for them. Called Birmingham Data Systems, but they have actually was one of the first ones I saw go to virtualization. They initially did it with, and we sold them, called Falcons. They're a board that fit in an old ISA-based PC, and the PC had a card in it. It had memory, CPU, and 2 serial ports, and they found a way to bridge using a DOS box. So they were actually running a VM on PCs in the 90s.
Nice.
The only one I ever saw do something similar was the old Apple NuBus computers, where they went to run Windows on an Apple. But now it's all based on software. The software's become so standardized that the hardware interface is just a matter of playing a game. Total virtualization, which is some of what we do.
Yeah. All right. So what is it that you like about working here? I assume you've been here 25 years. You have to like it at least a little bit.
I guess it's the feeling of family with the coworkers, solving the problems and creating working solutions to move customers ahead. I mean, we're successful when they're successful. So, it's doing what we need for the customers. And sometimes, yes, I do spend a little more time solving an issue.
Yeah.
But you want to go out and you want to learn things, and there was always something to learn. And if we face the problems and solve the problems, then next time we run into them, then our customers are better off for it. And if we get them moving along and they're making money, it's good. I mean, one thing I've always noticed is that when we do competitor conversion, I've seen between 12 and 18 months, they either add another store or they buy somebody. Yeah. And it seems to be a trend. So, and
see, there you go. That's some stuff that we should be using in marketing now. Now I have extra information that will help us.
Well, you go look at the things, look at when they're installed, and then look through. Well, did they add another location? Did they buy somebody? Did we have to merge data together?
Yeah,
and it's interesting watching them grow. I mean, there were a few customers that I was warned early on by Earl and Wayne, who were lovely individuals. Frank Holland is one. I think that he's been spoken of at the last meeting when Bob was here. Frank Holland could make a scaler cry. That's being very generous.
Yeah.
His wife, Jenna, lovely woman, worked from home. Now, later on, as they went to the new version of Windows Point of Rental, I called one day and talked to Alex. I said, "Well, where's Frank?" And he goes, "Well, he's on a vacation train ride up the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest."
Yeah.
I go, "Where's Frank Holland? What have you done with it?" He goes, "I know, it shocked us all." So it helped him become better. But like I said, he used a lot of 4-letter words in their first few conversations.
Yeah.
But
all right, I always ask the new people for something not work related about them. So what's something that you have outside of converting customers and dealing with data?
I really don't do much other than that. I'm always working home here, whatever. I mean, I have married a lovely woman, and I walked into a household of 5 stepkids. So,
That'll keep you busy.
Well, it even keeps me busy now because a couple left. They're back.
Mm-hmm.
I still have 4 adult stepkids there. So it makes it very interesting, especially when I say, "Well, you want to get a job? What are you doing today?" One of them was doing pretty well. He actually had left one job and was getting another job with the government again because they liked him and actually kind of reached out to him. He went to go get on, did everything. Was the day he was supposed to, the next day he was supposed to join, the freeze got held and got laid off.
Yeah,
so he's still looking for work.
Yeah,
but
tough time for that.
Always.
All right, let's pretend that you're talking to a new pointer as a wise, learned pointer. You've been around for 25 years. What would you give as a piece of advice to them on day one?
Well, customers will call in with issues and problems. They do like to gunny sack them in together from their point of view. And the first thing you do is you never say that that's not possible. Okay. Because they are seeing it. And and even though you're like, that can't happen. No, stop. You just stop, you listen, you start breaking up the issues and problems, start breaking them down because they lump everything together and they are really, they're charged. They're electrically charged. So we have to ground them, so to speak. We need to stop, listen, break up the issues or problems into single issues. Let them know that, hey, you have a lot going on here. Let's break it down into separate issues and work through them one by one.
Yeah.
And usually what they think is one big problem is a bunch of little problems, and it's just they're on edge.
Yeah, usually you don't call in if it's like, I just have this one small thing.
I've had a few customers actually call in, "Hey, how you doing? Haven't talked to you in a while. Yeah, nothing's new."
Oh,
So, and and the other thing too is if you don't know something, say you don't know, but let me find someone here who does, because we have a
yeah,
brain trust here, and somebody's seen the problem, even if you haven't. Um, the other thing too is always be honest with the customers, even when it's hard, brutal, and whatnot, because they like people being honest, even when they don't like the answer.
yeah,
They may grind their teeth, whatnot, but if you shoot rental customers straight, because they're out there dealing with the contractors, because I've been on all sides of it. I work for a construction company through where my dad was there. I got on summer work there.
yeah,
So I'd work the days there. I mean, I had 3 jobs through many years of summers. Then I'd go work at Wendy's, just because if you work 3 hours, you got free meal. All the
yep,
fries you can eat, and all the sodas you eat. Well, that's come back to bite me, diabetes. What
yeah.
can
I was gonna say,
But so I went and rented equipment. So I knew how to, and we usually, one of the things they did if they were going to return, they had you, clean it off just to save money. And the other thing too is backed into is that I ended up doing pickup work for a company that did hardware locks and doors and all that. So, great man, Bill Howard, him and Andy Middleton, had a wonderful company called Construction Specialties. And then fast forward a couple of years in college, they needed somebody to do some night work, because they had bought all the shelving, need to have it set up and arranged and whatnot. So I ended up going to work for them there. And then lo and behold, I started working for a guy who was selling Alpha Micros and software and whatnot. I ended up selling and writing a hardware scheduling package for these guys. So I ended up going full circle with them for years. So like I said, I know renting the industry, and that I've seen people not watch when they take something apart and put it back wrong. And a good example would have been the steel cutoff saws. They used to have a filter in the back. There's a rubber gasket. Problem is people put the cup on, then the rubber gasket. It was supposed to be the rubber gasket, the cup, and then the hold down lid.
yeah,
You talk about frying some dust into a 2-stroke engine, it would seize it up.
yep.
But
Okay, one final question. You're at the Oscars for Point of Rental, I guess. Maybe we'll have to come up with an award show for this. Who are you thanking for helping get you to where you are today?
I'm going to have to thank my wife, Diana, for putting up with working overnights here. Yes, Wayne, I set off the alarm several times, because you can't leave your office at a certain point. It wasn't a problem over at the other building.
Yep.
But working overnight, weekends and holidays, I've had to do that several times for customers who want something converted and installed on the downtime. My friend Dion Hughes, she's the one that pointed me to this job. She says, "Hey, they're looking for an Alpha Micro programmer." So she's the one that started all this. My buddy Earl Sherman. Earl, yes, you gave me 1 day out of 2 days training, and it's 25 years later, and we still haven't finished that second day of contract training for the legacy system. So, yeah, when he retired, he says, "Guess what? You're not getting trained."
Well, now that he's back, maybe you can still finish that.
No, we're not going to touch it.
Okay.
As he says, he has his favorite sayings about the suspense fund. The suspense fund is his favorite saying. Daniel Ruiz, best friend and best man. He was best man at my wedding. Kevin Wilson. Kevin's the best SQL server teacher there. I understood the command line prompt side of it, but seeing it under the user interface, and how to do things so that you don't accidentally hit F5. People are taught F5 refreshes the screen. Well, unfortunately, in Microsoft's world, F5 in programming.net, VB6 or VBA, VB6, and SQL says execute the file. So if you're in a sequel and you only want to run one line, you have to highlight and select it. If you press F5, it's going to run the whole thing, whether you want it or not. And if you're not ready and you don't have a backup, you're in trouble. So
I once had a shirt that said F5 refreshes you. I'm glad I didn't wear that today.
well, that would have been funny because it also executes you. But just showing me that when you have statements like that in like SQL Server, you want to use the dash to comment them out and force your, that way anything that gets run if forget and press F5 is just display or view queries, select queries. No, they don't do anything. They have no thing. And and I've even done a few where I've tested it and I created a whole thing for a customer to we're doing all this updates, and I just set it in F5, ran the whole thing through, and the conversion was done in 5 minutes. So
nice. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today, and congratulations again on 25 years here at Point of Rental. I'll see you in another 25.
Yeah, I may be. Hey.